Call this meeting to order. First, we're going to start with Pastor Tommy LeGrand to give our invocation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Pastor.
Eternal God, our Father in heaven, we come this evening with thanksgiving in our hearts and praises on our lips and our mind stayed on thee. It's in thee, O God, that we live and move and have our being. And here we are this evening casting all of our cares upon you, for we know that you care. O God, have mercy upon us as we seek to go forward in this new year, to do that which is pleasing in thy sight, beneficial to our community. But, oh God, as we pray here, we want to thank you for things being as well as they are. We pray for the California residents that lost their homes in fires, floods, earthquakes, and famines throughout the world. But God, I pray for this administration here in Hamlet, that they would have the wisdom and the knowledge and the strength to do that you have assigned to their hand, that Hamlet may grow and prosper and be successful in this new year. We ask it all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, sir. Item number 3, adoption of agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 4, approval of consent agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes as presented, consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Oh.
Item number 5, comments from attendees. Mr. Latimer? A familiar face.
First off, I say good evening to the members of the City Council. And for those who do not know me, my name is Esco, and I was recognized as the guy with the door outside before. First of all, I'd like to express my gratitude for the recent appointment to the planning board, and it is my sincere hope to bring significant value and perspective to the city of Hamlet.
Mackenzie.
And in reviewing the 162-page comprehensive plan, the town steering committee, the planning board, and the city council identified 12 key objectives to guide the city. Now, 2 of these objectives stood out to me as I prepared to serve the planning board, updating the city development ordinance, and enhancing fire, police, and military. Now, to achieve these critical objectives, it is imperative that we have funding and resources to those on the front lines of law enforcement and community. Officer Dalton was an amazing officer. I've had the privilege. Officer Williams and Officer Dalton have been 2 amazing officers in the city. And I've had the privilege of speaking with them and seeing them work. And he has a code enforcement, he was juvenile detective, and he's a patrol officer. The only problem is he can't really execute these responsibilities without the proper support. And therefore, I'm hoping, and I urge, council to the forefront in consideration of funding proposals funding support Officer Dalton in achieving the goals outlined in the comprehensive plan that was put together in the 2022 to ensure the development of our city. I'll use one example, that I live right behind that food line on 70%. And as I go there, it's not uncommon to see non-busy times 2 to 3 cars parked in the environment. When it's very busy, you may see 5 or 6 parked in the environment, which means a fire truck, our officers cannot get down there in order to, if a fire broke out, to save lives. It can't happen. That big truck is not going down there. It's not going to happen. And it's very uncommon to see those cars there. And I urge and I hope that I understand that if code enforcement happens and these individuals, the constituents, are getting kicked, you're going to get phone calls. I understand. It's going to happen. Right? I get phone calls about people walking through my yard who don't supposed to be in my yard. You know, so I understand you're going to get that. But I would challenge you to welcome those phone calls of, hey, I got a $20 ticket, I got a $30 ticket, maybe a $50 ticket, maybe a warning. Instead of having the phone call of, hey, a fire broke out, my grandfather couldn't get out, my child proactive in this measure, to say, hey, this is what dogs do. So far off, police officers are beat down for the things they do wrong, but never congratulated for the things they do right. Does a great job, but you can't do it by yourself. Those resources you have. Again, it's part of our comprehensive plan to do these things. And just give people the opportunity to do these. Because if the fire department goes out there, they can't enforce it. And then who are they going to kick it to? I don't know, I don't have a resource. And if I had his resources, I have a limited amount of resources, I have an officer who can write tickets for parking, fire lane violations, or I can have an officer who can bring down crime and stop murders, robbery. Which one do you think I'm going to do? It's going to be great. So I like everyone to sleep well at night and say, hey, here's a particular problem. Let's address it, let's get in front of it before things take off.
Amen.
Quick question. TC, can the police issue tickets on private property?
If there's a violation of the city code, they could.
Is
So,
that would that be a violation of city code?
well,
or,
so, and are you talking about tickets like, criminal citation, or are you talking about
for
tickets
parking
like?
in a fire lane?
Yeah, so, give you an example. If you have a public nuisance, that can be on private property. They could issue a citation for that. Likewise, if you had a situation where you had like a fire lane, it's a public fire lane, even if it's on Food Line parking lot, citation could be issued for that, because that's a public right-of-way at that point.
And I think it's important too to encourage the public to obey the law.
Agreed.
It's posted.
Agreed.
Don't park there.
Well, you put
For
together
a good reason.
Exactly.
great plan. You put together a great plan in order to facilitate that plan and to keep it cohesive and keep it going. You don't want to throw money at a plan to make the city look beautiful and then the residents not following the rules to keep it looking beautiful. That's just wasted money, right? So if we can do small things in the beginning, we will never have to have those conversations, late night conversations. Hey, I got a ticket. Yes, wonderful, great, wonderful, thank you. I'm good. All you got was a ticket.
Glad you did.
versus, hey, I had to bury my grandmother because the fire department couldn't get down there. If I had to have conversations as a United States Marine with 12 confirmed kills, I guarantee you the conversations that I'd never want to have for those who served underneath me was to have the conversation of, hey, your son, your daughter, your mother is not coming home.
Yeah.
I never had those conversations. You never want to have those conversations. And I've had officers who have had to have those conversations. Let's have the conversation of, oh, all you got was a ticket? I completely understand. Don't park there again.
Yeah. Question to TC. TC, like the shopping center over here, that's Whistle Stop we're talking about off 174. How can it be private property and not be protected and open to the public and not be protected by the law enforcement?
It is.
We may need to talk after the meeting, Mr. Sellers, because I'm not sure I fully understand the question.
I didn't hear you.
I said we may need to talk some more after the meeting, because I'm not sure I fully understand the question. So obviously, there's some things you can't do on private property, but usually, and this is not exactly, I think, what you're talking about, but if, say, people are on property and they've been asked to leave, you can notify the police and they can cite people for trespassing. Also, as an example I gave to, Councilwoman Covington, there are times where public ordinances apply on private property. So I'd need to know more about the specific,
Well, it's just like
the issue.
it's been explained to us, there's a fire lane going up there. What's the safety of going to visit, doing the shopping? 'Cause,
Well,
whose
and-
responsibility is it to call the police?
Well, and on that point, Mr. Sellers, and this ultimately is it's a management issue. I know Chief Brown is looking at it. And I think Mr. Latimer's made a really good point, a lot of his resources. So I'm not in a position to say why, are the people parking there, but to the question of why there isn't a code officer or a police officer writing tickets, it may be as simple as they have other more important priorities, or it may be that when someone's on shift, they aren't aware of it. I mean, I couldn't tell you, but I could tell you if people are in that fire lane, even if it's on a private property, they can be cited for that.
Well,
They can be. That's deemed a public vehicular area. And
Exactly.
the state gives the law enforcement certain rights to enforce certain laws, and that's a public vehicular area.
Yep.
So they can do it, there's no question about it.
Yeah, and just to kind of round that out, Mr. Sellers, I think it's not so much an issue of authority as it is just being able to get the code enforcement done effectively.
Well, the code enforcement, because one side of the entrance up there, in and out of the food line where we're talking about, the doors are locked on it. You have one way in and one way out. So that's a violation of the fire code there, in my opinion.
Right. And they
Yes.
made and during the holidays, well, not during the holidays, but when we had the potential snowstorm, I mean, it was a madhouse. It was a madhouse over there. And as a matter of fact, they had to come over the intercom speaker and ask, you have 2 minutes, whoever's parked in a white car, to move it per law enforcement. Now, it must have really gotten bad because that never happens. But it's not very uncommon for me to come around that corner and there's a little 2-year-old who darts out.
Absolutely.
It's not uncommon at all. So,
Thank-
and that's just one accident that's waiting to happen, so.
Thank you very much for your comments, and we look forward to your service
Thank
on
you.
the Planning and Zoning Board.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for bringing this up.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Very good presentation of it.
Who else do we have tonight?
Come on up here, Brother Gerard.
How's everybody? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
again.
Right. My name is Gerard Anthony Morrison from 519 Charlotte Street. I wanted to mention a couple of things. You heard me say last year I'm going to be adamant about making sure that we hear this piece about getting at-large and district representatives in combination boards. We have districts at court, we have districts with magistrates, with congressmen, with state legislators, and I think it benefits you all because that way we have a combination of at-large and districts. So it saves when it's campaign time, and you actually get to interact better in the sense of the numbers are less to deal with. Because how many of you really get to deal with 6,200 people a month? And that's the population of Hamlet last I checked, correct? Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. So I think if we phase that out, do it within like a 6-year plan, since we do staggered elections anyway, I think there's opportunity for that, and the census coming up. Next thing, I was looking at some of the things on leadership and board membership. Black History Month is coming up, and Black history is American history. We're not naive. I don't have to even say that to you all. But I'd really like to see management and the appointed boards more diversified, and the biggest thing, reflective of the community that it represents. It's representative government. We got to make sure we represent it. And luckily with the Planning and Zoning Commission I've served, and Cluis and Amy, we've probably got the most diverse, to my knowledge, of all the boards. And I think Citizens Review Committee, I'm not sure if they're still active, but they were pretty diverse. So I'd like to make sure we take the time to look at that this year. New year, new you. We've got a strategic plan that we paid a significant amount of money for, so let's make sure we're executing it. Also, speaking of the strategic plan, it's concerning to me that I'd like to get some status on it. And I know we've had personnel changes. I worked with HR, so I get that. And I've got to say this heartfelt. Who's in charge from the city management perspective? When y'all know last meeting, I went to him personally and I told him I left a message for you, wanted to talk with you. He calls me a week later when I was on the way to go out the country. So I left a detailed message saying that I'll be back. So he did call that Monday, but it was like 4:32 that afternoon. Then he tells me that maybe we should wait on this until the new city manager comes in. And bless his soul, I haven't met him yet, but hope he's healing properly. But who's in charge? And then when we had some of the meetings, Cluis, that was your last meeting on city planning, we mean well, but when we asked about minutes and stuff, we were doing this so we were getting there, and it's nothing personal in there, but when I'm asking staff what's the status of the strategic plan, and they're using pronouns like they, depends on what they want to do. I want to make sure that the staff feels empowered. So you all have fiduciary responsibility, and I know you mean well, but we've got to execute better. And because, again, who's in charge? When I call, you know, I'm appointed. So, you know, I don't think it's a question about my sincere service to the area, but we've got to make things, communication is better. And we got to improve communication. And coincidentally, I was going through this management leadership workshop. Now, usually textbooks with business majors, a lot of us in here were, they talk about the 4 functions of management. That's planning, organizing, leading, and directing. Now they've added a 5th, and it's communicating. As fundamental as that seems, and with all this technology that we have, let's make sure that we're communicating better with the citizenry. And thank you for what you all do, and I look forward to an empowered new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerard. All right, item number 6. We are,
We've got another comment.
I'm sorry. Come on up. 2 more, okay.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Honorable Mayor Glenn and council members. I am Helena Brown, and I am here as a representative of St. Peter United Methodist Church, currently at the corner of Bridges Street and Church Street. I am the Administrative Council Chair at present, and I'm addressing topic number 8 on your agenda.
Do we want to wait till we get to number 8?
Yeah, there's.
Okay, I wasn't sure, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Sure. We'll let you come back. All right, sir.
Brother J.E. Tony was a strong member of St. Peter's for a long time, wasn't he? Tony family, good family.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. We're going to slow things down a little bit because I have absolutely no idea how things go. So if you can point me in the right direction when I veer, go ahead and do that. One point I want to make is that I was at Food Lion the day before the freeze, and there was a police officer there who was making people move out of the fire lane. And you could sit there and listen to them, and they would actually argue with the officer and say, oh, I'm here because I have a bad knee, so I need to get out. And he's going to move. So she gets out, and then he argued with the officer for 10 more minutes. So I know they're doing what they can, and they are out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In my opinion, Hamlet and surrounding areas has a problem. And that problem is that we do not have a no-kill shelter for animals. I've seen so many stray dogs everywhere. I've rescued about 20 of them. It's hard to do because I know if I take them to the county shelter, they eventually may not be put down there, but they move them around with the company that runs the shelter, and they'll eventually be at a kill shelter. And so that makes me hesitant to help animals that are in need. We had one, I was able to help one that night before the freeze with a pit bull that was beyond emaciated. If he had one fat cell on him, it would have been in his brain because it certainly wasn't in his body. And the police did a good job of picking him up and getting him to the shelter, and I've called and spoke and made sure that he's doing well. But my first question is there any chance that we could create a no-kill shelter in the Hamlet area?
I don't know. That's a pretty big responsibility and a major financial cost, and county has usually attempted to manage this problem, and there's not a company running the shelter anymore. They've hired their own director, so K2 is gone. and which does increase the possibility that the dogs will be sent to a foster. There's a strong relocation program over there now. They don't have any room because they have 20 dogs on criminal hold in the shelter. And until the cases are brought to court, the dogs will have to remain there unless they're sent out to a foster. And they're usually so vicious that nobody will foster them.
Right.
So we're tripping over the logistics of some of the things that they inherited when K2 left. But I do know that they're making a very, very strong effort. We have 2 people who work diligently to take dogs to fosters all over the state, out of the state, and everywhere else as soon as they're located. So there's a much better chance that a dog or a cat will have a better ending.
Yes.
I think that's would be a tremendous financial undertaking.
Yes.
You're going to have a staff. You're going to have to have a building. There's a lot of state, maybe our lawyer can tell us more about that, but there's so many regulations you'd have to have for it. The property, the facility, the records, it'd be a tremendous financial undertaking.
Yes. And I realize
for a city
that,
to do it now.
and I realize that it would be a huge part of a city's, budget. So that's one of the things that would have to be looked into. Like, this is me starting my process of looking into things like that.
Oh, sure.
I also was wondering if there was anyone who could help me or kind of point me in the right direction as far as starting that process, maybe investigating the county shelter to make sure that they're doing everything that they say they're doing, and that the dogs are being cared for and they're not being sent to kill shelter. I do know what you speak of with animals that are vicious, and
Yes.
the dog that I saved was actually no one could go near him except for me. And the owner would always ask, well, that's just so weird. Why does he let you come near him?
You feed
But
him.
he would eat anybody else. Exactly. I said, it's because I feed him. I'm the one that feeds him. He'll nibble my fingers when I first get there because he's so excited, but he's so hungry that he lets me get near him and pet him and feed him and give him treats and things like that.
I think there's a no-kill shelter in Moore County. You might want to check with them where they get their funding. I don't know that they get any funding from Moore County, per se. It may be funded through the state, but they have a no-kill shelter.
Okay. Yes, I did have 2 puppies which were basically thrown into the bushes in my yard, which is why I had to do something with them. I eventually, because I went, around and around and around in a circle trying to find a no-kill shelter that wasn't full or that could take them, I eventually had to drive them to Atlanta to find them a no-kill shelter.
Have you checked, do you have contact with the Richmond County Humane Society?
I've not made any
That's a
contact.
whole separate group from the shelter.
Oh, it is?
Yes, it is. And they have drivers who, once they pick these dogs up, once they're vetted and get sent to the veterinarian, and I don't mean vetted in that sense, but determined that they're appropriate for foster, they have drivers who will relocate those animals.
You could possibly also check with the director of the shelter, which is Tess Calder, and she might could give you some information to help you with your search as far as no-kill, what it would take to make it a no-kill shelter, things like that. I know I had an issue with some dogs. They come out and brought cages. We never did catch them, but they killed my cat right in the front door of my house.
Thank goodness.
And I would have been in trouble for shooting a gun in the city. I'll just go ahead and tell you. Because, right there in my front door. But, that would be a good place to start, like Abby said, Moore County, and to start with Tess. She could probably help you.
Moore County has a very, very strong animal control, animal protection program. They have a huge spay and neuter program. They invest a lot of money in it, but it's also very most of it's private money. But they it's not
Yes.
necessarily coming from somebody's pocket. It could be coming from foundations, and it could be grant money, it could be any number of things.
Okay. I did, was able to get the police to help me that day with the dog that I rescued, and I thank them for that, because it was the first time that I felt comfortable speaking to a police officer about the issue. Because in my mind, it was, oh, well, they'll go pick him up, but then he'll be dead within 3 days.
No, the police have recently, they're actually conducting a drive collecting food and blankets, and you can bring them to the police station
Oh, okay,
for the benefit of the shelter.
sure.
And he does a great job on that. And you also know, if you know and report it, animal cruelty is an offense, that's a felony. If you report it, it can be proven that is a felony, animal cruelty.
Okay. So if the police are involved, then they wouldn't have to file a report
It's a
because it was a felony. Okay. Well, hopefully that will help.
Yeah, it is, that's what it put it there for.
Okay.
What was your name, sir?
Jonathan Hill, Hill. I've lived 2 blocks away from the police station for about 50 years. Moved there when I was 4. So there's also, I've also had dogs behind my house at the railroad station that had puppies that I had to eventually one night go out there and try to find them. And as I'm going through the bushes, I'm like, I'm going through these bushes, and if the mama dog and the daddy dog's there, I'm not safe. So that had a lot to do with me following through with that.
Especially the mama dog.
Yes,
Thank you for your
Thank you for your
compassion.
comments.
thank you.
Thank you for your compassion.
All right, next we have, I'm sorry, let me make sure that's everybody who
Any
wants
more
to make a
attendees want
public
to talk?
comment. Okay. We're going to honor 2 retiring city employees, Gary Blue and Danny Nesbitt. Gary has been 25,
I think,
what?
Most Reverend Greg Shelley would like to approach the
Shelley.
Before I
podium.
come in late, I just got something brief, and maybe you can tell me what to do. A couple of Sundays ago, you may have seen it on Facebook, the famous Facebook. There was a guy from Columbia, South America, and his son that had gotten a scholarship to St. Andrews. Anyway, long story short, they catch a train from Miami and come to Hamlet. Well, they get to Hamlet at 6 o'clock in the morning with no transportation, none whatsoever. It was 22 degrees. They were there by themselves. And, I talked to the nice lady at the depot down there, but she says that belongs to Amtrak, that the city can't do anything about it as far as posting some kind of phone number or a list of somebody to call. We have Ubers that are listed on the internet, and we have 2 taxi services that are on the internet. One which is Dewey Browder, and he's no longer doing it, I don't guess, and the other lady is this On Key or whatever it is. But my suggestion is could we not have a sign, and the reason I got involved is because this man walked up to the Episcopal Church, standing out there in the cold that Sunday morning, and he'd been out in the cold since 6 o'clock that morning. So, not that it doesn't matter to me, but, a sign that says, having a police department 2 blocks up the street, fire department, and I know the police department probably won't be anybody there because they're out doing their job. But to be sure, there would be somebody in the fire department that they could say, can you help me? Can I get into warm or whatever? And I know that the sign down there has the Hamlet Depot Railroad Museum and Dewey Browder's taxi service. But I don't know if that sign belongs to the city or if it belongs to Amtrak or who it belongs to, but I believe that they could put Dewey Browder's name up there. To be sure, they could put and I'm not sure the name of that thing, it's a taxi lady.
Okay, Nels.
Okay now, yeah, that's the name of it. But, Dewey doesn't drive a cab anymore. You can't hardly walk, so, in my opinion, I think that maybe we should check with Dewey and tell him, your sign don't need to be up there anymore, and check with the other lady and maybe put her sign up there, or the nice little girl at the
Visitor Center.
depot, who,
Visitor Center.
yeah, she said that we can't put anything on that building because it's Amtrak's stuff, and I guess, you know, and I sure understand why they can't leave it open, because they ransacked our church several years ago, so. But, anyway, that's all I had. I'm sorry I'm late. You can put it in your pipe and smoke it and do whatever you think you need to do with it, but something needs to be done as far as, you know, I wouldn't want my family to be out 6 o'clock in the morning and know where to go, you know, so.
You have
Anyhow, thank you for your
some good
time.
points, Greg.
Maybe
Thank
it
you.
doesn't have to be, Greg, maybe it doesn't have to be on the building. Maybe it could be over in the park over, you know, we've got a public park right across the
Yeah,
street.
That sign out there, it's got the Hamlet Depot sign on it. It's got Hamlet Depot and Museum, and then right up under it's got Dewey Browder's name on it, taxes.
I know what you're talking about.
So maybe we could take Dewey down and put the lady up.
Yeah.
Oh, does it?
What?
Dewey.
Thank you there, Brother Shelley.
Thank you, my friend.
Since I have a microphone up here, I think what I'm going to do is read the plaques, and then I'll come down and present them to you. How about that? So we have Gary Blue, in appreciation of 25 years of dedicated service to the city of Hamlet. Congratulations on your well-deserved retirement. You will be missed. And then we have Danny Nesbitt, in appreciation of 20 years of dedicated service to the city of Hamlet. Congratulations on your well-deserved retirement. You will be missed. And let's see, Gary was Public Works, and Danny, Water Department.
I know. He's working in Walmart now. We get over that.
Be shy.
Well done, Mayor.
No, no.
We'll clear out. All right, item number 8, proclamation for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. has inspired this country and world with his vision and dedication to freedom and equality, and whereas Martin Luther King Jr. became the voice of the American Civil Rights Movement in the 1950s and 1960s with eloquent speeches and nonviolent action that resulted in landmark legislation, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and whereas Dr. King was assassinated on April 4th, 1968, at 39 years of age, and whereas the voice of Martin Luther King Jr. was not silenced, and his faith and courage in proclaiming the message of liberty and justice for all lives continues, and whereas federal legislation signed into law on November 2nd, 1983, established a legal holiday to be celebrated on the third Monday in January, honoring the life of civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr., who was born January 15th, 1929. Now, therefore, I, Amy Gwynn, Mayor of the City of Hamlet, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim January 20th, 2025 as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the City of Hamlet, and urge all citizens to join me in this special day of observance. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and affixed the seal of the City of Hamlet this 14th day of January 2025. right, item number 9. Now we will talk about 8. I just did 8.
You said 9.
You said no.
Oh, it's enclosure number 8.
Those birthdays you've had.
Okay. Well, it says enclosure number 8. That's why I'm confused.
Oh, okay.
All right, item number 8. Renaming North Bridges Street to Martin Luther King Jr. Street. And this is from the section of North Bridges that runs between Main Street, goes across Hamlet Avenue, and stops at Highway 74. Notice has been given to adjoining property owners. So I will now open the floor for public comment.
I could not run all the way to Jim Mill Road.
Come up to the mic, Reverend LeGrand.
I'm so grateful that I've been able to serve in South Hamlet over half a century. And I'm for progress, and that's one of my desires, and I'm glad to see that on the agenda. But could we have that ran all the way over to Jim Mill Road?
Well, here's the big picture, and that is that we have to get approval, is that the right word, approval, from property owners?
Yes.
And that stretch of Bridges Street seemed pretty opportune because there is only one residence. And there are other property owners, but we felt like that would be a very visible part of the street, but also one that we would not get much opposition from people who would have to change their address.
Well, it's less than a dozen residents from Main Street to Gin Mill, is not right?
I do not know.
Yes, it's less than a dozen.
I know there's a church down there too and a business, right?
And there's several houses down through there.
Would you be in helps with that if there was any opposition if we ran that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Maybe we need to table it.
Put your microphone down so we can hear you.
You know, we definitely wanted to do this, and we wanted as less opposition as possible. It's amazing that you're here tonight because I think I've even told you this before. Speaking of Dr. Martin Luther King, and I'm always talking to my pops, he felt very highly of you and felt like you were a part of this movement in Richmond County, particularly here in Hamlet. And so this is a moment that you're here with us tonight. One of the things that I was going to ask for the recommendation and ask for a second tonight, to commemorate Dr. King with a street is long overdue for this city, for this county, for many cities across North Carolina, and not just North Carolina. When you think about justice and equality, and you think about education for all kids to see Martin Luther King Street, and he was for all people. It's about community and all of those great things. And so I was definitely going to ask for my workers here, my coworkers here to vote on that tonight. But I am all for if we could extend it, and you would be and willing to help me and the MLK Foundation to extend that out with less opposition as was possible. We when you go down Main Street, you would see it. When you go down Hamlet Avenue, you would see it. People that's traveling through 74, they would even see it. But that's a great idea, and I would be for that.
I would certainly appreciate it if you would consider it. I've been in South Hamlet since 1969.
Yes, sir.
I've made sacrifices, I've invested, and of course you can see the campus that we now have there. And of course I'm probably the oldest one in here. And I grew up in Richmond County. Matter of fact, I was born in Marks Creek. And so it's very, I guess, sensitive to me, and I certainly would appreciate it if we could have that run all the way to Gin Mill. I just think it would send a message to the entire area, the progress that we have made and do reverence. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Brown?
As I stated earlier, I do represent St. Peter, which is up on the north end of Bridges Street at the corner. And that would not include St. Peter, as it is
Yes.
proposed. However, we did meet and discussed it as a church body, and there are some things that we were concerned about, so that was taken into consideration. But as I understand it as now, it would not come up past 74.
Correct.
Okay. Do you need any further explanation?
It would not affect the church address at all.
Okay, but I would like to see Dr. King honored, as stated. But however, I would like to see it in a more visible place, to include everyone. And, you know, we've done some research. We do have 177, which is also known as King Street, if anyone doesn't know that, which runs straight through Hamlet. And we also have a King Drive, which is located in Pearson Acres, which is not far from where your proposed change, and there are DOT specifications that have to be met because they can't be in a certain amount of space to each other for EMS reasons, address reasons, so those taken into consideration. So I guess what I'm saying, I'd like to see it in a broader sense that includes everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. There are not any streets in Hamlet with the name Martin Luther King on it, are there?
No.
That I know of. Thank you.
I have a question. Church Street, does it go up to the corner and stop? And then where you turn left to go to 74, it's Bridges Street from there?
If you turn it upside
Yes.
down, you get a better.
Well, I'm looking at it right here. I
Yeah,
mean, I
that's
see
straight.
because according to my map, from 74 to the corner is Bridges Street,
It's Northbridge.
North Bridges Street. And then when you make the turn to go by the church on the left, is Church Street. Okay, so my thing would be, why not run it to the corner? If you're going to run it to 74, huh?
I mean, run it across 74
Yeah,
up
to the corner, but you're not going down the church.
Because the church doesn't want it to be.
Oh, you don't want it up there? The church didn't want it up there, is that correct? You would rather for it to stop at 74? Okay. And I guess, can I ask Mary? Mary, would you be in favor, could you come up? Do you mind? I'm gonna put you on the spot, girl. I've been knowing Mary since
Good evening,
we were
Mary.
babies.
Hey, Mary, good evening.
You wouldn't have a problem with running Martin Luther King Jr. Street all the way out to it's Jim Mill now. I'm sorry, Jim Mill.
Jim Mill
Because
Road.
you live on that street.
Yes, I do. My name is Mary McLaurin, which you know. And I live on Bridges Street. And I have a question. How did y'all come about to pick that street?
Like I said, because we felt like it was visible, and we felt like it would be the least number of residents that it would affect as far as having to rename their road and go through the address change and all those things.
How is that visible? And it's not, people don't travel that road like they do.
No, but they go down Main Street,
Yes?
which run right by the sign. They go down Hamlet Avenue, which the sign would be there, and 74, which would show signage.
Are y'all going to do anything special for that street?
We hadn't talked about anything as far as a special sign.
I
Is that
mean-
what you're saying?
Because that street is really not visible. It's not a well-traveled road. It's really nothing on that street to make people want to come down that street besides it being named after Dr. King.
Mm-hmm.
So my question again, you said that is because it would affect less people.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I've been on that street just about all my life. I was born on that street. Believe it or not, my mother had me on that street in a little wooden house. And we had a situation a few years back. And I don't think, I'm speaking for my family, because I own a good bit of that land. I don't think my family, I don't think the other members would want, no, I'm gonna speak for my family. I don't want it changed because of myself.
You said you do not want it changed?
I don't want it changed.
Okay.
Now, I can't speak for the other people,
Mhm.
but I can only speak for the McLaurin family. And I know we don't want it changed. So I know y'all gonna do what's best for Hamlet.
No, I don't want you to say it like that, because we accept all,
Pull your mic down,
Input.
Maurice.
so yeah. Please don't think we're gonna do what we want to do. We accept all.
Sometime it be that
We
way.
accept all input, so yes.
Sometime it be that way. But like I say, are you gonna do
then-
something
and
for
this-
that street?
And that is the reason why, because, as we said, is the less residents and the oppositions, and just because of you just said, you're with your family. And there may be other families that feel the same way.
That's why we have a public hearing before we
Yes,
do
I like to,
anything.
if y'all gonna,
And
if it
so
comes
you
to
want
that,
go on record as saying, no, you don't want it changed.
what are y'all gonna do for that street?
What do you mean? What are we going
I
to do?
mean, to make it more better. Because there's nothing on that street. It's just a street.
That's about most streets in Hamlet.
Well, like all the streets.
Well, just the MLK signage, and the biggest thing to that is the visibility of crossing over the street. And for me, especially going down 74, to see travelers come through there and to see that sign of Martin Luther King Street, that was the top stars for me. But the signage probably would be the most special thing that we would be doing. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, if it comes to that, put something on the street to make people want to come down Martin Luther King Boulevard. Don't just have his name up there in an abandoned street the way it is on that street.
Yes,
That's my suggestion, if you do that.
That's a good suggestion.
All right,
And I
thank
agree
you.
with it.
Do we have anyone else who wants to
Thank you,
talk
Mary.
during the,
I'd just like to comment again that,
okay,
since the Imperial Food Fire Park is on that street, it's kind of like a historic memorial street, and if we could get street lighting and sidewalks ran our way down and just kind of make it a tourist site for people that visit this. It's right around the corner from the train station. Matter of fact, it's not that far. And I think it would be more attractive if we could get some street lights and sidewalks and kind of put some signs to continue to remember the victims of that fire back in '91. I mean, I travel quite a bit, and I'm often mentioning the Imperial Food Fire that people remember on that day. And so I think if we could get those things done, it would certainly kind of make it a little more attractive.
all right.
Gerard Morrison again. Didn't know this was on the agenda. Got to run, but possibilities. To me, this is one of those things where strategic planning, diverse input is needed. Just as I mentioned last year, when you have diversity of thought, you get the optimum opportunities and ideas. Just either way, but right now for bridges, as I mentioned to the consultant when we were doing the strategic plan piece the last day, that park that's right beside the John Coltrane building, or that land, the city owns it. Perhaps that could be a Martin Luther King park, and Coltrane and
Actually,
Yeah.
that park is divided into a lot of little lots owned by a lot of different people, just to clarify that. It's not just the city.
Okay.
Richmond County has several lots in there also.
I think they own the whole thing.
No,
They don't own it
there's
all.
several.
The city owns some of it.
Yeah,
What-
it's-
what's the area that Hamlet owns for that lot?
I don't know exactly,
Anybody?
but anyway.
I think this may be something to explore with that. Other part is, with the consultant, what I talked about is how when we did these nice visitors guides, they omitted Bridges and Coltrane. Stuff stopped right there after the train track. And I was like, just being frank about it, why are we omitting black history, as rich as that history is. And St. Peter's is one of the oldest churches in this city, and a lot of history there. But I like what Helena said about the King Street, even though it's a different area. But as big as Martin Luther King was, as Coltrane, as J. Kenneth Lee, maybe it could be a thing about a wall of fame. But just possibilities, but I think it's something to, I like the idea and I applaud that we are taking some initiative, leadership, and moving forward. But maybe it could be, y'all can appoint a committee to explore some different ideas. But definitely don't want to let it die like other things have happened. So, and definitely don't want to table it. Just exploration committee is a suggestion.
What you say, Maurice?
So, you know, this is one of those things that it's been a long time coming. And we don't want to let it die. I don't want to let it die. And so
Is that what you're talking about?
I hear you, Bishop, and in the future we could extend that out, but the fact that we are here talking about it and everybody is on board to talk about it and feeling good about it, I want to make a motion that we approve the renaming of Bridges Streets that starts at Main Street and will end right there at 74.
Hold on one second. I need to close the public hearing first.
You're right.
Okay. Can I have should I just say that I don't need a motion, right?
Can I make a motion that we table this until, well, there's a
No. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing now.
Got a motion on the
So
floor.
now we have a motion.
Yes.
All right, go ahead, Ray.
So going back to what I just said is, I make a motion that we rename of the North Bridges Street to Martin Luther King Street, starting at Main Street and extending out to 74.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next item, number 9, comments of council. Mr. Martin?
Well, we're starting a new year, 2025, and that means next month we'll be probably talking about baseball. And I'll have some more information on that next month probably. But other than that, that's about all I have to say.
I don't think you ever stop talking about baseball, do you?
No, not really.
Mr. Stewart?
I just want to announce that the Martin Luther King Foundation will have a series of events this weekend, so I invite everyone to please come out. Friday night, there's a sneaker ball gala. Saturday, there's the MLK parade starting at noon, which is Uptown Rockingham. And on Sunday, there's an ecumenical service at Mount Pisgah Church in Rockingham that starts at 5 p.m. And then ending with a MLK luncheon on Monday, which is the King holiday, at 12 noon at the Wayman facility in Hamlet, the Faith Center in Hamlet. So please, we invite everyone to please come out and participate in all the Martin Luther King Foundation events this weekend. Thank you. Oh, yeah. And we will be posting if there's rain and so forth. We will probably go into the old courthouse for an event, but we'll be posting and get that information out for you early Saturday morning. Yes.
Mr. Sellers?
Nothing, but I just wish everyone a safe and healthy new year. And I thank the attendees for coming and putting their input in on how they feel. And I support them, and I think they're very valid. Thank you. That concludes me.
All right, Mr. Cluess?
I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I appreciate you coming out. We like to hear your comments. That's the reason we do it, Gerard. And I like your idea, but we have problem with people even volunteering for boards. So, I mean, we would probably have a problem with people volunteering to do districts and different things like that. I agree, it's a good idea, but, you know, you have problems when you say volunteer, you know, you have to be committed. You know, I mean, you know that. And so I think it's something to think about. And it's a lot when we set up here. We don't take this seat lightly, not any of us that I know of. I served 8 years before, I'm finishing out a term this time, and I don't take it lightly. There's times I miss sleep, and sometimes I miss a meal. I know it's hard to believe, but I do. I mean, we take this serious, and we take all things into consideration. We really do. It's not just I know I can see Maurice's passion. I think it's a long time coming. I think we do need to do something for Dr. Martin Luther King. And I'm gonna cut it off, Mayor. I'm sorry.
No problem.
I had to do a report one time for a class I was in, and they give me a subject and said, does history really matter? And that was the subject they give me, and I had about an hour to do a 300 to a 500 word essay. Yes, and I had to do it on the fly. And my essay was on Dr. Martin Luther King. Because I said, does history really matter? Could you imagine what this world would have been like without what Dr. Martin Luther King done? I mean, so yes, history matters. So I agree with Maurice, and I think it's something we need to do. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, first of all, I'd like to congratulate the two gentlemen that we honored tonight with their retirement. 25 years of service and 20 years of service, that's a long commitment. And that's what makes the city of Hamlet so successful in so many areas is our employees. They commit to the city, and their working conditions are not always good. It seems like every year around Christmas time, bitter cold, somewhere down in the 74, 177 intersection, something breaks and the road gets dug up, and they end up working 24 hours around the clock when they could be home with their families. And so
It happened this year.
it happened again this year. That's what I said. It happens almost every year. I don't know if it's some kind of problem. I don't know. But at any rate, Gary and Danny have both been excellent employees for the city of Hamlet, and I don't think we can say enough about them or the people who follow in their footsteps. And we talk about showing our gratitude for a lot of things. I think we take a lot of things for granted, and one of them might be our city employees, because I tell somebody every day, they say, God, water's expensive. Well, it is, but when I figured that it cost me less than $1.50 a day to be sure that when I turn on my faucet, something happens, or that when I flush my toilet, something happens, I'll pay $1.50 a day for that assurance. And second, I want to say that, Ms. McLaurin's remarks about it, she didn't think sometimes that we listen. We do listen, but sometimes there's not an answer that makes everybody happy. Unfortunately, that's our initial look at this was and we had to approach all the property owners, which we did, and so to have changed that resolution to what Reverend LeGrand had suggested, we couldn't have done anything because we would have had to have gone back to all the property owners on that end of the street, and you would have had at that point your opportunity to express your opposition. But we were at least able to take a baby step, and I think you need to look at that. You didn't stand still, and we didn't move backwards. We took a step forward. And it might not have been the solution that everybody wanted, but it was at least progress. And I appreciate your interest, and we appreciate your input. And that's, like I said, that's why we have public hearings before we do so many things that we do, so that you can express your interest, your approval, your opposition, whatever. And I guess we're off to a brand new year, and we'll have a new city manager in February. There will be somebody in charge, Gerard. And so, I don't know.
Well, everybody
Depends on what we tell him.
has their time frame for when they're available to do that.
Right.
So just keep that in mind, Gerard.
But, so I think we're going to have a good year. We've got a good man coming on board, and I'm looking forward to 2025 and hoping that this will be an even better year than 2024. And that's as far as I'll stretch my optimism. Happy New Year.
Okay, I just want to wish everybody a Happy New Year, and I hope you all enjoy the festivities for Martin Luther King Jr. that are coming up this weekend. And we will now, I need a motion to go into closed session for attorney, client privilege, and personnel.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All righty.